Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where the performance of Veltima fungicide can take your best results even farther. Don't forget, powered by soy biodiesel, it's the Crawford County Fair on Monday, thanks to Nature's Premium Liquid Fertilizer since 1946. And while we're on the calendar, visit the 26th Annual Greenville Farm Power of the Past at the Darke County Fairgrounds July 10th through the 13th in Greenville. Complete schedule and details at www.greenvillefarmpower.org. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture Deputy Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs, Michelle Beckering, led a delegation on behalf of Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins to the 44th session of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization Conference held in Rome, delivering a clear message. International organizations supported by American taxpayers must deliver results that align with U.S. interest and directly benefit American farmers, ranchers, and producers. During the conference, the UN national statement was firmly delivered, echoing President Trump's vision and Secretary Rollins' commitment to prioritizing American farmers and ranchers. The USC's FAO at a crossroads, said Deputy Undersecretary Beckering during the U.S. national statement at the FAO meeting. One path is business as usual. More mandates, more meetings, more process, slow progress. The other path brings us back to the basics and results, focusing on FAO's core mission and making a real, sustainable difference on the ground. When farmers and ranchers can produce more, move their goods to market more efficiently, and compete fairly, everyone benefits from farm to table to globe. In meetings with FAO leadership and international counterparts, Beckering emphasized U.S. reform priorities and the need for results-based, science-driven leadership. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
We've got a mostly dry finish to the week here in Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. I don't see anything coming together today or tomorrow. Few clouds today, beautiful sunshine tomorrow. Humidity values are ramping up both days, so it's going to be somewhat uncomfortable. But I do not look for any significant moisture all the way through the end of the week. I'll even give you a fully dry Saturday at this point. We had been looking for some moisture to come in Saturday afternoon. I'm pushing that off until we get past midnight Saturday night. Sunday, though, in my opinion, does feature some hit-and-miss scattered showers, and it may linger into the early part of Monday. Out of that, I'm going to say a few hundredths to half an inch, though. Coverage at around 60% of the state. So we're dialing back on the coverage, and we're dialing back on the available moisture for sure. Tuesday next week, mostly dry. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have some heat-based instability that will be close, but I think we go largely dry here. Best chance for heat-based thunderstorm action, I'm going to say Thursday the 17th with about 60% coverage across the Buckeye State. We follow that up with a dry finish to the week and weekend. The weekend of the 19th and 20th looks spectacular. Lower humidity, cooler temperatures, lots of sunshine. And then we go into the week of the 21st where the temperatures and humidity ramp back up. And we're also seeing a fairly decent shot at midweek thunderstorms, particularly looking at the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Let's check in with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council and your checkoff dollars at work. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
I'm joined today by Philip Good. Philip currently serves as chairman of the United Soybean Board. Philip, as you go around the country representing America's soybean farmers, what are some of the messages you share?
You know, I'm really proud of the soy checkoff successes, and I just want to highlight just several, maybe of many that I could highlight. And the first being biofuels. It was truly farmers 30 years ago that had vision and foresight, and you know, we have seen that biofuels from its creation grow. In the last 15 years, we've seen it increase from 80 million bushels to 1.2 billion bushels. And that's all because of farmer investments back in time and the success story there. Another one is about the exports. You know, trade is so important to us. We have a large percent of our soybeans and soybean meal are exported. We're now exporting to over 80 markets. And U.S. soy continues to remain America's #1 ag export, with more than $31 billion to the U.S. economy last year.
Again, my guest today, Philip Good, chairman of the United Soybean Board. And today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff.
And thanks, Dusty. Retail fertilizer prices tracked by DTN for the first week of July 25 show most nutrients are higher in price compared to last month. But for the second week in a row, multiple fertilizers were also lower as well. Urea had an average price slightly lower compared to the prior month. No fertilizer was higher or lower considerable amounts for the fourth week in a row. DTN designates considerable as anything 5% or more. 3 fertilizers were slightly lower looking back to the month prior, those being urea, anhydrous, and UAN 28. In a Rabobank report titled, "What a Closure of the Strait of Hormuz Could Mean for Global Fertilizers" by Samuel Taylor, Rabobank's senior analyst Farm Inputs, wrote that the closing of the Strait of Hormuz would be negative for prices. Nearly 45% of all urea exports flow through this important waterway and does other varying amounts of nutrients. While closing the Strait of Hormuz would raise fertilizer prices, the impact would vary throughout the different regions around the world at different levels at different times. The most exposed countries could be Brazil and India, which import considerable amounts of nutrients, Taylor wrote. 7 fertilizers are now higher in price compared to 1 year earlier. MAP is up 3%, 1034O 5% higher, DAP up 7, and Hydrous up 9. UAN 28 is 21% higher, UAN 32 is 29% higher, and urea is up 30%. That only leaves potash. It's 5% lower compared to a year earlier. And in other notes, key federal and state policy developments are reshaping priorities for Ohio soybean growers. At the national level, President Trump's signing of the budget reconciliation bill delivers several long-sought wins for agriculture, including an updated soybean reference price, permanent tax provisions from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, expanded crop insurance, and a strengthened 45Z clean fuel production credit that removes the ILUC penalties for soy-based fuels. The EPA's draft of 2627 renewable volume obligations proposal would significantly boost demand for biomass-based diesel, though its proposed limits on foreign RIN credits would have sparked legal concerns. Tax discussions with Vietnam also signal new opportunities for U.S. soy exports. At the state level, Governor DeWine's signed budget includes mixed outcomes. While funding the OSU veterinary medicine and poultry inspection, it saw meaningful increases. The H2 Ohio farmer funding for best practice cost share through ODA was maintained with a slight reduction. H2 Ohio allocations for ODNR and EPA were sharply reduced, and OSA opposed new pesticide license requirements that go beyond federal mandates and will pursue legislative solutions this fall. Additionally, OSA supported the restoration of the sales tax exemption for tile and grain bins and celebrated a successful H2 Ohio farm tour showcasing farmer-led conservation efforts. Back with more after this. Think biodiesel is just another fuel? Think again. Biodiesel is Ohio innovation on the move. Clean, green, and built to keep diesel engines running strong. It's an engine booster, a soybean supporter, and an environmental champion all in one. Every gallon reduces emissions, strengthens Ohio farms, and powers your ride. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org.
Friday, July 25th is Recovery Ohio's Mental Health Day at the Ohio State Fair. Visit the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, the Department of Insurance, and other state agency booths. Join us on Friday, July 25th for Recovery Ohio's Mental Health Day at the Ohio State Fair. We'll see you there.
And one more note before we get to today's markets. Landowners may now enroll their property in the Ohio Landowner Hunter Access Partnership, according to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Wildlife. Enrollment in the program is open until Thursday, July 31st, and incentivizes property owners to provide land access to hunters. Since the program's launch in 2021, nearly 31,000 acres have been enrolled. It looks like the Landowner Hunter Access Partnership Program is funded in part by the Federal Farm Bill under the Voluntary Public Access and Habitat Incentive Program. The bill provides funding to state and tribal agencies through a competitive grant process to implement programs encouraging hunter access on private properties. A recent survey showed that landowners enrolled in Ohio Landowner Hunter Access Partnerships were overwhelmingly satisfied with the program, with marks better than 90% survey saying they were satisfied. Hunters and landowners can find more information about the program, including answers to frequently asked questions, on the Ohio Landowner Hunter Access Partnership page of wildohio.gov. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information of your beans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mostly in the red again on Wednesday. Only corn gave us a little bit of, well, hope is probably not the right word, but corn did trade just a little bit higher overall, at least through parts of the day. Now, Brazil's CONAB report and the USDA crop report was the main focus on Wednesday. CONAB releases their updated crop size estimates today. The USDA small grain production and WASDE reports are due on Friday, tomorrow. After that, the focus will probably shift back to what's going on in the weather forecast and corn and soybean crop potentials. Now, soybean futures broke support yesterday on the basis November. We traded beneath 10.13 yesterday. Actually, September finished under $10. Liquidation of long and short corn, long beans, corn short spreads. Biofuel policy has caused soy oil and soybeans to hold a little bit stronger against grains for the past 6 weeks, but the looming prospect that China is not going to be a sizable buyer of U.S. new crop soybeans has renewed selling in the entire complex. Moreover, we have concerns that the Trump administration will announce a large small refinery exemption that will diminish the blending obligations of RVO. Soy oil futures fell with profit taking yesterday. The announcement that we just mentioned is forthcoming and very much awaited. Looking at another round of information, brokers estimate that managed money sold 3,400 contracts of corn, 3,900 contracts of beans, flat in the wheat markets overall. The corn market having a slight hold in positive territory into the close is not going to spark a lot of interest going forward. Historical data suggests that corn prices rarely reach their annual lows in July. August and September are more probable periods for a bottom. So that's why folks are not necessarily believing that we've bottomed yet in corn. That's the way your markets finished up yesterday. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, July corn up 1.5 at 4.14. December down 2.5 at 4.13. March down 2 at 4.30 cents. The November beans are down 3 1/4 at $10.04. January down 3 1/4 at $10.20 3/4. September wheat down 4 1/4, trading $5.42 3/4, while December's down 4 1/4. It trades at $5.63. In livestock, yesterday's close, August cattle down 20 cents at $219.77. October up 52 at $217.35. And December up 67 at $217.30. The July lean hogs were up 12 at $107.10. August 107.22 up 45, and October up 80 cents at 93.77. September feeder cattle up 85 cents, bringing it to $320.02. October up 77 at $318.02. And November up 72 at $315, you guessed it, and 2 cents. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.